We're going to finish up Senate File 110. There's a couple amendments that we need to put on it. And with that,
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, thank you for the opportunity to work on this bill just a little bit and see if we can't get it out and have a little debate in the Senate on it. But Mr. Chairman, as we went through this bill and listening to the testimony from the other day, there's a couple amendments that I would suggest that the committee might want to consider. Mr. Chairman, if you turn to page 3, and then you go down on section Romanet XX, residential real property, it's been brought to my attention, and I think that of the committee. In last year's bill, what we effectively done is also give that residential property relief to those folks that own trailer houses. And so to be consistent with the intent of this, it's just more of a funds swap and how we're assessing those. We would need to bring that provision in, and also that they would get the break on the residential property tax. And I don't have the exact verbiage on that, Mr. Chairman, that was in the bill right now, that's statute, but we can pull that in. Staff conceptually could probably get that for the committee. Mr. Chairman, the other one that came to our attention, again, to be consistent with currently in statutes based on Senate File 69, on page 3, line 6, we would need to change that from 6 to 8 months. And that would be consistent with what we passed last year. And then, Mr. Chairman, if you turn over to page 5, line 1 and 2, where it says the 4th Monday in May, there was a suggestion that said that we should change that to March 1st of each year. And then, Mr. Chairman, having a conversation with both the Department of Revenue and then the counties, there was a suggestion about the time to actually implement all the changes and stuff. And so the suggestion that they said would be change the effective date from January 1st to 2027 to January 1st, 2028. And so those would be the 4 proposed amendments, Mr. Chairman. And members of the committee have also been working with the Department of Revenue and the counties on this, trying to determine what a fiscal note would be to actually provide the computer software and the updating and the programming of that on both of those components. We're still working on a number, but Mr. Chairman, at this point in time, till we get a little more refinement on that number, just as an FYI, I will be bringing a committee of the whole amendment to address that. But until we get a hard and fast number on that, we know it's going to cost something for both the state and the counties to reprogram and update their software to be able to implement this. As we get a better number, I'll bring that as a committee of the whole amendment to the bill. So, Mr. Chairman, those were the items that I captured. There may be something else out there, but those are the ones that that were brought to our attention that I believe covered most of the concerns with the bill. With that, Mr. Chairman, I'd stand for any questions.
we move the bill. We probably should move it again. Okay, committee, what's your pleasure?
Is there any other public testimony?
Do we have any other testimony on this bill?
Mr. Chairman, we do have one individual online.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, we have Lindsay West.
Good afternoon, Chairman McCowan and committee. Can you hear me all right?
Yes, welcome to Revenue.
My name is Lindsay West. I serve as the Carbon County Treasurer and as the current president of the Wyoming County Treasurers Association. Speaking on behalf of the association today, I'm just here to highlight our interpretation of the bill, and my apologies for being a little late to the game. I'll begin by referring to testimony provided to the committee on Monday. We do agree with the remarks offered by Assessor Huxtable and Administrator Gill that the varying levels of assessment are not the primary concern. Rather, the operational challenges arise from the potential of applying two distinct mill levies to a single parcel. Currently, there are 3 software vendors providing tax billing and collection systems across the state. None of those vendors would be able to administer this currently. We did receive feedback from one vendor this morning indicating that the implementation of this is feasible, but that it would require some time to develop. We have not received responses from the other 2. Any changes to treasurer software must also integrate with assessor systems since tax rolls originate from their offices. And for those reasons, the association would also be in support of having an effective date of January 1, 2028, just to allow the adequate time for development, testing, and coordinated implementation. Senate File 110 also raises questions for county treasurers related to motor vehicle registration. Vehicle registration and other fees like prorate for commercial vehicles on international registration plans, mobile machinery, dealer plates, and permanent trailer fees described in Title 31 require distribution by county treasurers in the same proportion and manner as property taxes. Treasurers are seeking clarification on how Senate File 110 would impact that distribution formula. The current language in Title 31 does not clearly address how varying mill levies contemplated in this bill would factor into those calculations. Specifically, the question is whether vehicle registration fees would be distributed inclusive of the 25 mills for education or calculated without them. That determination is a policy decision for this body. However, depending on the intent, we believe conforming amendments to Title 31 would be necessary, whether the goal is to include or exclude the 25 mills from the distribution formula. I will emphasize on this that the total amount paid for vehicle registration is not changing, but what it would change is the proportional distribution of those fees among taxing entities. And with that, I would thank you for the opportunity to speak to this bill today and would be happy to stand for any questions.
Questions? Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, committee, what's your pleasure?
Move the bill.
It's been moved by Senator Ide. I'll second it. Okay, we have 4 amendments we gotta take up.
Can I ask the senator a quick question?
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Would you, in just a short little, just recap what we're doing here since we, met a couple of days ago? I think I understand it, but for everybody else too, just in a nutshell, how it all works together here with the mills, the state, basically paying for that school part of the mills, and just a little recap, if you don't mind, Senator Hicks.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I'll try to keep this as very high level. So basically, Mr. Chairman and Senator Ide, what this is really a fund swap as to where we give the property tax relief. And so currently, we just took a 25% across all of those property tax assessments. And as you showed, the state collects some, local governments collect some. This would shift that. It's roughly equivalent to exactly what we did as the 25. In fact, in some cases, it may be just slightly higher. What constitutes the fund swap is this now. First, it implements the constitutional amendment that was passed to take all occupied residential property, that subclass defined in that constitutional amendment, from 9.5% to 8.3%. That's only about a 12.5% reduction in that residential property tax. So get down to that next 25% of residential property tax. We go in and we take the mills collected by the state of Wyoming for the school programs, and we reduce that from 25 to 0. And that roughly gets us to almost very close to that 25% property tax reduction. But it shifts the burden. Number one, everybody shares equally, just like they do now with the current law, but we've reduced those under that constitutional amendment. So it implements that. The second part on the school mills, we're going to pay for that out of the legislature's funds. That'll eventually, the replacement of those school funds will come out of either our school foundation program or our general fund. And so we're picking up that part of the property tax relief. But roughly it's equivalent to what we currently have given those homeowners. We're just shifting the way we take those funds out and who's paying for the property tax relief. So I hope that answers your question.
Yes, thank you, Senator Hicks. Mr. Chairman.
Any other questions? Okay, let's start with the amendments. Good person.
Yeah, probably go. The first one, yeah. So I'll move that on page 3, line 6, that we change the 6 months to 8 months to be consistent with what's going on at the Department of Revenue.
Been moved and seconded. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed?
Mr. Chairman, just to clarify, that's page 3, line 6, from 6 months to 8 months.
Yes. Okay, and the next one is line 1, page 5. The claim to the county assessor is not later than March 1st versus the 4th Monday in May. Moved by Senator Pappas. Do we have a second?
I guess I'll second that.
Seconded by Senator Ide. Discussion. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? And then line 10, page 5. Change the effective date from January 1st, 2027 to January 1st, 2028. Been moved by Senator Case, seconded by Senator Pappas. Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? I guess we're back on the bill.
I've got another amendment, Mr. Chairman.
Okay,
Page 4, lines 13, delete all the language, old and new from the bill through line 6 on page 5. What that does is remove the school district's backfill mechanism, makes us stand on its own legs without a backfill from Cheyenne.
discussion?
Would you? Mr. Chairman?
Senator Ide?
Senator Case, would you read that again? I'm sorry, just to clarify what you got there.
Certainly, Mr. Chairman, I hope I'm catching everything, but basically, that's where 3913-104, that's on line 13, page 4, That's about the mills provided under 21-13-102, which is for the schools. And I want to remove that from the bill so that this bill doesn't talk about having school funding go to zero. And what that means is we wouldn't have the backfill from Cheyenne. I'm sure the sponsor has something to say about it.
Senator Hicks.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, that's exactly what it does. But as a result of that, would you end up with, if you pass the bill out, it gives a 12.5% tax break to those residential homeowners instead of that 25%. That's the effect of the amendment. So policy issue, but if you want to give 12.5%, or do you want to give the full 25%? That's what, if you adopt it, you've taken this bill back that they're only going to get 12.5% over the current rate instead of the 25 that we're currently giving them.
Mr. Chairman,
Senator Case.
I think that's somewhat correct. I think what's also correct is that it's important that people perceive the impacts of these tax rate changes within the services in their community. Schools are going to be made up, it's true, from Cheyenne, but they would be made up at half the rate, not the 25%. Taking the school mills to zero basically removes their skin in the game. And I just don't think that's good taxation policy, Mr. Chairman. I think local services, local people, local taxes, good policy.
Senator Hicks.
So, Mr. Chairman, I would just to remind the committee that while it does reduce those 25 local, we still have two constitutional amendments. One's the 6% that they're still paying because those are constitutional, and then we have the other 12%. So those still paying 18% towards their mill levies. There's 48 total mills assessed for schools. 48. We're only getting rid of 25 of those, and those are the 25 mills that the state collects. Those property owners and those homeowners are still going to pay that other 18% of property tax for those constitutional mills. So they still got the skin in the game.
Senator Ride.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, thanks for the discussion here. I'm against the amendment just for the fact that it looks like making it even messier. I like the original proposal, so I'm a no vote on the amendment. Thank you.
Question. All those in favor of Senator Case's amendment, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No.
Thank you. It was a fair fight, Mr. Chairman.
That amendment has failed. Now we're back on the bill. Any discussion?
Mr. Chairman, the other one was suggested that it was in the Senate File 69 to give those owners of those trailer houses that reside in them also. That's existing statutory language. If we could just have staff, and if I can also run that as a committee of the whole amendment too, to bring that in, just for clarification.
Yeah, let's run it on committee of the whole.
Okay, I can do that, Mr. Chairman.
It's basically housekeeping, I think.
It's a committee of the whole, so I think it is just to be consistent with what we've done in the past, so it is technically conforming.
Any other discussion or comments? Senator Pappas.
Just for my thoughts on this, I'm probably going to be a no vote on it. I know I'm going to be a no vote on it. I think in concept, I like what I see. I just don't think it's ready for prime time. I'm concerned with the comments and some of the information that Ms. Huxtable gave us and Ms. West gave us. I believe that there's issues there that we haven't discussed, and there's other players, I think, that need to come to the table. I would really love to see this in our interim. Because I think the concept is great. I just don't think it's ready.
Senator Ide.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm in favor of this. I think it's going to solve a little bit of the blowback from the local governments on starving their emergency services, fire, and wondering where they go in the future. It's probably not perfect yet, but we still have 3 readings up on the Senate floor to work the bill. And if it doesn't make it through, it would be a good interim topic, but on for the bill. Thanks.
Any more discussion? Let's call the roll.
Mr. Chairman, this is a roll call vote for Senate File 110 as amended. Senator Case,
No.
Senator Dockstader,
Aye.
Senator Ide,
Aye.
Senator Pappas,
No.
Chairman McEwen.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, you have 3 ayes and 2 noes.
Thank you, committee. Look forward to working with you and hopefully we can resolve some of those concerns as we work this bill in the Senate. So
Thank you, Senator Hicks.
Use a cigar.
I don't have a copy of the other. Oh, yeah. No, I don't. Yeah, it's got it. All right, the next bill for our consideration is Senate File 96, tobacco sales and taxation.
Okay.
Senator Pappas.
Thank you. I'll just present the bill from here if that's okay with the chairman. So.
For me.
Okay, great. This bill seeks to do 2 things. First of all, it's an imposition of sales tax for remote retail sellers. Currently, if you buy a cigar, you could buy it online or you can buy it at a retail shop. If you buy it at a retail store here in Wyoming, the store owner is obligated to remit 20% state excise tax as well as the sales tax on the wholesale price of that cigar. However, while an online seller can also sell a cigar, and for the most part, most of the cigars sold in Wyoming are online, they are not required to pay that excise tax. They because of Wayfair, they have to pay the sales tax, but there is no imposition of state excise tax. They do pay federal excise tax, as do the local folks, and that federal excise tax is a cap tax. It's not a percentage, unlike Wyoming. So that's the first thing this bill does. It provides definitions. For the first few pages, you'll see there's definitions on consumers, on pipe tobacco, on remote sales, all that needed to justify the imposition of tax on remote sellers. Second thing this does is set a 30-cent cigar cap or tax cap on cigars. Currently, as I mentioned, it's a 20% on the wholesale price. So unlike the other tobacco products, it's based on price and not on unit. For the excise tax on cigarettes, for instance, is 3 cents a cigarette, no matter what the price of the cigarettes are. Same way with moist snuff, it's 60 cents an ounce. It's different for cigars. It's based on a wholesale price, as I said. So for if you buy a cigar that wholesales at $1, you're going to pay 20 cents tax. If you buy a cigar which wholesales at $40, there's plenty of them out there, or even more, you're going to pay $8 excise tax. So this is number one, a blatantly exorbitant tax for our consumer. But number two, it's also a tax that's not easily administered. I mean, you've got the percentages, you've got the, it's just difficult. It's easier if we say, okay, it's just 30 cents a stick, right? And that's what the federal government does. They set a cap just per cigar. So that's what this bill does. It allows for that. I have to bring to your attention that the issue is not the same for cigarettes and other tobacco and nicotine products because of the PACT Act, which is the Federal Prevent All Cigarette Trafficking Act. Cigars were exempt from that. So that's why the retail sellers can sell into the state via remote sales, online, mail purchases. You can't do that with cigarettes. So there's not an issue with cigarettes there, but there is an issue with cigars. And so in order to put our local cigar stores on parity, on a same playing field with the remote sellers, we need to impose that tax on the remote sellers. And in order for the bill to be, I would say, current with all the other tobacco products, we should cap it so that there's a cost per unit, not a sliding scale of 20%, no matter what the cost is. I think that's only fair to our consumers and those who enjoy a good cigar, because it really taxes higher end cigars more than it does, a cigar that you might buy at a convenience store. So that's pretty much the bill. I would, there's smarter people out there that can talk about it. So I'll let you call on them for public comment. And the department is here as well. Department of Revenue can weigh in on it for us as well.
Department of Revenue. Department of Revenue.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Brett Fanning, Director of the Wyoming Department of Revenue. Couple comments from the department on this particular bill. Going back, if we go back to timeframe 2023, this conversation was one of the first conversations where I got to know all of you and you got to know all of me related to tobacco taxation. And so back in that time frame in 2022 and 2023, the Joint Revenue Committee did work on a concept related to this particular bill. As one of the directives that the committee gave me was to make sure that if there were any tobacco products coming into the state of Wyoming from online or outside Wyoming, to make sure that there was parity with our brick and mortar and our retailers across the state. That challenge proved both fruitful in some areas and not in some other areas. And what I mean by that is we did have successes. There were tobacco products that were coming into the state that were not paying tax and we got them licensed. Yet there were other areas where we weren't as successful. Again, two concepts related to this particular bill. The first one is that remote retail seller. It's my understanding in conversations with the industry and in conversations with the sponsor as well, that that remote retail, the definition framework that's in this bill will allow them, and they will willingly comply and start sending in tax to us, tobacco tax. So that's my understanding, is that there was a missing piece. And you'll see throughout the bill, Mr. Chairman, there's a couple for sales and for resales in that language in there. That coupled with the remote retail aspect of it is a missing component in our statutes from what I've heard. And a lot of state dollars that have been used to try and comply with this. So that's the first aspect of it, the remote retail sale. Mr. Chairman, if we go to page 3, this is kind of that definition page. And on lines 1 and 2, this is within our definition of a wholesaler. We add that remote retail seller in there. Just want to make note that that paragraph D is related to cigarettes. And in the remote retail seller definition, we're talking about cigars and pipe tobacco. So I just wanted to bring that to the committee's attention there, that you've kind of got a couple different tax elements going into that one paragraph. But again, it goes back to a question that I've kind of been asked about this, is why does the remote retail definition only apply to cigars and pipe tobacco? Couple fold though. One, it's upon the sponsor if that's his prerogative and he wants to. But there are other tax types as well where we've had challenges in getting them licensed and then sending in tobacco tax to our office. So just wanted to make that note. Then on page 3, lines 17 through 18, this is where we get into that remote seller language. Administrator Sharon Ream, she actually had a very good conversation point related to in this bill, remote retail sale. It outlines, okay, if you're going to purchase tobacco products basically from online sources, it's possible that you could have Wyoming to Wyoming online sources as well. And so it may be worth considering just adding some language in there that says whether you're inside Wyoming or outside Wyoming, you're a remote retail seller. The reason I bring that up, Mr. Chairman, and if you go onto page 4, starting with line 10, this is where we bring in our remote retailer threshold. That 100,000 didn't come from anywhere. That's actually in our statute, as Senator Pappas outlined, related to sales tax. So there's a big Supreme Court decision in 2018 that said, hey, even if you're not in the state, you have to license and collect their tax if you meet certain economic thresholds. So the $100,000 there aligns with our sales tax statute. So that's where that figure came in. I just want to make sure the intent is that the remote retail sale, you're capturing both inside and outside Wyoming. And again, the remote retail language too it's a national model that's really gaining traction. And there may be others behind the room to outline that as well. Seems to be a missing component in a lot of state statutes, that remote retail sale as it relates to tobacco. Because if you think about it, the current model, the general model, is you buy tobacco products from a manufacturer, it goes to a wholesaler in Wyoming. Our definition of a wholesaler is if you bring in the tobacco products into Wyoming, you got to pay the tax. Well, there's a missing link if you go directly from an online source or a manufacturer to the end consumer, the end customer, the retail sale. So that is where the Department of Revenue, this seems to be a missing piece. And there may be others in the industry that say, yes, that is a missing piece in your statutes, and then you'd be ready to rock and roll. So just outlining those kind of considerations as well. PACT Act. Oh, sorry, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, could I
Senator
ask a
Pappas.
question? Brett, could you tell me if I'm not mistaken, the imposition of that sales or the excise tax does not go away with a remote sale. The person who purchases something online then is responsible to pay the excise tax. Is that correct? If that is correct, I think most people, because if I would have bought something online, I would have not known this. I'm sure other people who buy online probably don't know that they're liable to pay that excise tax because that tax doesn't go away. It's still an excise tax that's due. It's just not due from the remote seller. It's due from the consumer. Is that correct?
Mr. Chairman, Senator
Go ahead.
Pappas. Thank you, sir. Senator Pappas, yes, correct. And it goes right into the segue that I was going to. If you purchase untaxed product from anywhere and you bring it into Wyoming, in this realm, it is comparable to a use tax. Yes, but a lot of consumers don't realize that. If it's not taxed, you've got to send in a form to the Department of Revenue and pay that tax essentially as a use tax on the tobacco product. Now, you may also, you're going to owe tobacco tax and you're going to owe use tax as well. That's why the PACT Act is an important player in this conversation, because essentially all of our tobacco products, except for cigars and really pipe tobacco, aren't PACT Act reported. And so we get reports on a monthly basis from tobacco companies, vapor companies all over the country, because they're required per the federal statute and act that Senator Pappas mentioned. If you're crossing state lines and you're selling to end consumers, you've got to tell the states so that the states can do their due diligence on the tax and maintain compliance with a couple other federal regulations as well. Master Settlement Agreement, a couple different players. So PACT Act, if someone is selling vapor products into the state of Wyoming, we've got a pretty good idea who's doing that, because there's federal regulations that say you've got to notify the states. To Senator Pappas's point, we'll send him a bill. Again, folks don't like that, but it is compliance. It's due diligence on part of the state of Wyoming. So yes, PACT Act is important in this conversation because cigars are not PACT Act reported, and Administrator Ream can't send him a bill. So, Mr. Chairman, just one last thing for me, and then I'm going to hand it over to Administrator Ream. The 30 cents a cigar is really a national movement. There are states that have started going to this type of threshold. There just is. There are many states that have adopted it. The 30 cents per cigar does seem to be kind of this national trend, relates to the price of a cigar, as Senator Pappas mentioned. Yes, we do have 60 cents pack, 3 cents a cigar or cigarette, 3 cents per cigarette. And then we do have 60 cents an ounce on moist snuff. And then you get into these percentages related to the other tobacco products. So it may not be, what's important to note is that if we do go to the 30 cents a cigar, there are other tobacco products, other OTP that would still be subject to the 20% of the wholesale price. In fact, there would technically be cigars that would be subject to the 20%, as Senator Pappas outlined as well. So again, generally that wholesale price is going to be a couple bucks, and then you get to the cap threshold. So with that, Mr. Chairman, if I could, I'd hand it over to Administrator Ream on anything I missed.
Senator Hyde.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Director. Would it be fair to say that this legislation imposes a new tax and licensing requirement on a new class of retailers?
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senator Ide, I wish I could give you a yes or no question on that. I really do. The Department of Revenue believes that we have the statutory authority in some aspects that the tax is due. Just because it's not on a PACT Act report or anything along those lines, there's still a tobacco tax due. It's just right now the Department of Revenue doesn't have that mechanism to get the tax for the state of Wyoming. So the Department of Revenue argues that the tax is still due, both tobacco tax and use tax. No new tax here. It's just the mechanism so that the Department of Revenue can have the tax and have the tools to be able to license those folks and have them send us the tax, other than trying to track down single cigar smokers who are not paying their tobacco tax and use tax.
Senator Case.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Fanning. Can I ask, I don't want to get ahead of your presentation, but the $100,000, which I recall that threshold being for remote sellers and aggregators, but that seems really high for cigars. I mean, selling $100,000 remotely into Wyoming, I mean, I can't imagine there'd be that many outlets that would actually achieve that. Maybe I'm wrong. I know that Senator Pappas smokes an awful lot of cigars, but anyway, can you help me with that? And then I might have follow-up.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senator Case, yes, it's across the board. On the conversations that I've had and in looking at the returns that we have in our system for folks who have licensed with us, you're going to have folks that are nowhere close to this. But if you did an online search right now, you would most definitely get to online cigar retailers who would meet this threshold very quickly. Remember, we're talking about $100,000 in a year. And so you divide that, you're 10,000, give or take, in a month. And Senator Pappas may smoke a lot, but he may not. And there are others around the state as well that do. So $10,000 per month. There are going to be a noticeable amount of companies. And when I say noticeable, different than sales tax licensing, you're going to have several that will meet this threshold very quickly and start sending us the tax. You will also have some that come nowhere close to this. Wide variety there.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask a question on that?
Senator Pappas.
Point. The $100,000 is not just for sales in Wyoming. Am I correct? It's for the company's sales,
It's gross revenue.
total revenue. So $100,000 over 50 states. Am I correct there or am I wrong?
I think you might be right. The language says remote retail seller means any person who makes remote retail sales to consumers in Wyoming that exceed $100,000 in gross revenue in the applicable calendar year or in the immediately preceding. So I think it's sales in Wyoming.
Yeah.
It's not the total sales of the company.
So let me ask, Brett, is that true with the Wayfair too? Is it 100,000 sales in Wyoming, or, because I thought it was the number of sales that the company makes, period. If they sell over $100,000 online, no matter where they sell it, then they're liable for tax wherever they, am I wrong? It sounds like I'm maybe wrong.
Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead.
Senator Pappas, Senator Case, it's into Wyoming, both on the sales tax side and tobacco tax side.
Thank you.
So,
Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry.
go ahead.
You could always cut me off. But I was just gonna say, is this $100,000? Is there some reason we have to have $100,000? Why can't we do $10,000? I mean, it's not consistent with the other types of sales, but this is a special product, and couldn't we just put our own number in there? Does it have to be 100,000?
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senator Case, policy decision on this one. If we were talking sales tax, I may have a different answer for you because it aligns with the streamlined sales tax agreement and their guidance. No, Mr. Chairman, Senator Case, this would be a policy decision, and you could put whichever threshold you'd like in there. It was just to be consistent, where if they got a license sales tax wise, you might as well get them tobacco tax as well.
And Mr. Chairman, so where I'm going with this is if we were to make this a lower threshold, that just means that the vendor has to get a license in Wyoming, and it saves having to backtrack and try to track people down and get them to pay a use tax, basically.
Mr. Chairman, Senator Case, yes, absolutely. As it currently reads, the way the Department of Revenue reads this statute is if you make $1 sale into Wyoming, you've got a license with us. tobacco tax wise. Again, not consistent with our sales tax statutes either, but that's how the Department of Revenue views it as currently written. There may be some others in the room who believe otherwise.
Mr. Chairman?
Senator Pappas.
Yeah. Question, does this impose any additional administrative problems for the department to change it from the 100,000 to a lower number?
Mr. Chairman, Senator Pappas, no, it does not.
Well, then I think I have to agree with the good Senator Case that we probably ought to look at a lower number.
Once again, I'm confused. That's a pretty frequent occurrence. So you said they have to pay taxes and a license even if they bring $1 in. Did I hear that right?
Yeah.
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
So
That's what the law says. That doesn't mean they do it.
what does this language really accomplish?
Mr. Chairman, that may be a question better served for others in the room.
Okay. I have one other question. You reference remote sales of cigarettes here? And this is just for my knowledge. How do they get around the state tax stamp? Does it have to be a stamped product with the state tax stamp?
So, Mr. Chairman, cigarettes, yes, absolutely. They do. They've got to have our Wyoming tobacco tax stamp to be sold legally in the state of Wyoming. It's my understanding, some antiquated language in our statutes as it relates to selling cigarettes across state lines generally doesn't happen anymore per federal guidelines. But the answer is yes. If you are selling cigarettes in Wyoming, outside of the Wind River Indian Reservation, then a tobacco cigarette tax stamp is required.
And the reason I ask, I'll tell you a story. My warehouse sent us cigarettes. We sell them through the grocery store, and it had South Dakota tax stamps on it. And oh, did that cause a big issue. So it still has to have the Wyoming tax stamp if you're doing it remotely. Senator Pappas.
That's really not a remote sale, is that correct?
Mr. Chairman, Senator Pappas, I want to get back to you on that one. Just based on the language, Mr. Chairman, just based on the new language in this bill.
Okay, any other questions before we move on?
How about one more? Just, does this new language help the department or hurt the department, or is the department neutral on it? Not the level of the tax and imposition, just the remote sales and definition and all that. Is that good or bad for the department?
Go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, Senator Case, it's good for the department. The reason why is because it adds clarity to these statutes. Again, I've mentioned, and I'm not a fan of dancing around questions, but this committee gave me a directive years ago to try and make sure everyone was on an equal playing field. And there were challenges there. It's my understanding, based on conversations, that adding this language brings all of those players to the table. And if that's the intent, we want equal footing of taxation in Wyoming, no matter how you get it into Wyoming, truck it, mail it, drive it legally, all legally, of course, then it does help the department. The 30 cents a cigar, that aspect is a complete policy decision.
Okay,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I'm going to speak a little bit about the returns and the IT side of this, the impact that it'll have on our division. Currently, with our returns and the way we tax, it's 20% of all of OTP. We're now going to break out OTP. We're going to have the items of OTP that will remain at the 20%. And we also have cigars that will now be taxed at the 30 cents if they're over $1.50. Currently on our return, we do not have a way to break that out. Currently in our system, we do not have a way to break that out. Currently in our system, the only thing we break out is moist snuff, and we break that out by ounces. Our system is able and capable because it's been programmed to do that. But currently it's not programmed with the OTP as far as cigars. And because we have shisha, which is like a hookah. You have the dry snuff that is part of OTP. So and some of the cigars that if they're under that threshold are going to still be taxed at the 20%. So there is some impact there as far as how we capture that in our system and how we go forward in administrating that. Not only is it our return, but we have.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yes, sir.
If we put a cap, a 30% cap on all cigars, how can there be cigars that are going to get taxed at 20%?
A 30-cent cap. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There are,
Versus 20%.
Yeah, did I get it backwards?
30 cents, just,
Yeah, 30 cents.
and the other one is 20%.
Right, that's what I meant to ask.
Yeah.
If there's a 30-cent cap, how can another cigar be taxed at 20%?
thank you,
It's
Mr.
a
Chairman.
cheap cigar.
Have to be below $1.50, I think.
Yes, so you might have a cigar that's $1 and taxed at that rate is less than what the 30-cent cap would be. So you have some that are going to be under that cap, what would be capped, and you have some that are going to be over what that cap would be.
So Mr. Chairman,
I got it.
the percentage doesn't go away. It's just that when you get to the $1.50 cigar or whatever it is, then it just doesn't get any higher. It's capped. At one point, we did look at a tiered system, and we could still do that, I guess, if where you would set a cigar maybe at a dime for every cigar below 150 and 30 cents for a cigar above $1.50. We could have a tiered system and then get rid of the complete 20%, but there's still the problem with all the other OTP. And that, I mean, we could cap all those products too, for that matter, or set unit taxes rather than percentages on those products as well. But we actually, if you recall the bill, well, you can't recall the bill because it died last year. We tried to actually remove all of those taxes because frankly, it's a burden on the department trying to collect it. It's a burden on the shops for trying to turn in that taxation and filling out all those forms. It only raised, if I thought, $6 million a year or something like that. It was a lot of work for not a lot of money. Anyhow, this is where we are now, though.
Please continue.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So in that being said, with our return, we don't have real estate on our return. It's pretty full as it is. So we would have to probably have another return or something similar to it. And I'll go into that in a little bit. But because we have to break it out, our system, what we call our ETS system, our engine doesn't have the way to calculate that and do that. So we would have to get IT programming for that. We have about 90% of our vendor wholesalers do file online. So we would like that in our online portal so that they're able to do that as well and not have to do part of it online and part of it without, having that online service. One of the, when we talk about breaking that out, we do, because we do something very similar with our snuff, we're capable of programming that. I did get programming bids from our third-party IT programmer. The first option we have is to create a whole new return. A whole new return would mean that we would have OTP altogether separated out from our moist and snuff, which we do by ounces, and our cigarette, because right now we have that all on one return. We have cigarette, moist snuff, OTP. It's all on the return. This is the return. I can give you a copy of that if you guys want that, but it's pretty full. So we're just needing more real estate. That estimate that I got to, and this would be to program it into our online portal, to program it into our ETS system, and to be able to update our actual form itself and get it processed through our system. They quoted me approximately 125,000. I laid awake at night brainstorming a little bit on how I could decrease that a little bit. The other option we have is to do a supplemental page to the form that we already have. So it would just be like a second page behind that. If we do that, it's not as transparent as it would be to have a return that was separated out so that it's transparent to everybody what that is. But we could do a supplemental page and put it on that supplemental page. We'd still use the same form that we have. We'd still have the same accounting engine, that kind of thing. We would still have to do programming. But they did quote me at, let me see, it was 43,000 for that, which I thought was a significant difference in the amount, so.
Mr. Chairman,
Senator Pappas.
could I ask a stupid question?
Everybody else is.
What happens if I see that's just a letter size. What if you go to legal size? Is that a stupid question, or, I mean, it's more real estate. Does that do anything for you?
It is more real estate. Oh, sorry, Mr. Chairman, can I?
Go ahead.
It is more real estate. However, most of the printing that our vendors do and our taxpayers do isn't legal size. It is on normal 8x11 paper. We do have, even our application tends to run into a legal size, and we've had to shrink that down and try to fit it in there. I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm just saying we still would have to do something with the form in order to get it. We'd have to adjust the form somehow in order to make it all fit. And once we start messing with the forms and the boxes that it's in, that's where the IT cost comes in, I guess is the best way to put that.
Any other questions? Senator Pappas.
I do have one more, and I doubt that you probably know this information, but since I've heard from our local retailers that most of the cigars sold in the state are actually from online sources, do we have any idea how much that is? So that, I'm thinking you don't, but there will be additional income if we start taxing or get tax revenue from people who are not currently remitting taxes. Do we have any idea how large that number might be?
Mr. Chairman.
I'm thinking you probably don't.
Go ahead.
You are correct. I don't know that I have that exact number. Brett, Mr. Fanning might, but I don't have that right off. I don't know how that we have a way of knowing that for sure.
Perhaps maybe some of the industry folks might know.
Okay, well, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee.
We'll open it up to public testimony. Yes. Need to point out that on Senate File 110, Senator Dockstetter's vote was by proxy. Or absentee, excuse me. Proxy means we could vote however we wanted. Need to be careful. Go ahead.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Laura Lewis, and I'm representing the Cigar Association of America, and wanted to just thank Senator Pappas for his leadership on this, and certainly the Department of Revenue for working with us on the language to be able to carry out the will and intent of this body. And in the interest of time, I am going to turn this over to Donovan Short with the Casper Cigar Company. And then also I have Beth Oliva is online with the Cigar Association. She has worked with the department on the technical language and can speak to kind of the national trends and all of that technical background.
Mr. Chairman, Senators, my name is Donovan Short. I own Casper Cigar Company up in Natrona County. I'm actually living in Senator Hyde's district up there. Appreciate the opportunity to testify in favor of SF 96. And again, a big thank you to Senator Pappas, who sought a lot of input on this. It's pretty thoughtful legislation from both consumers and industry and, of course, the department and all the stakeholders. And we appreciate everybody kind of coming together. We are a premium cigar lounge. We're one of about 2,000 in the United States. There's only about 7 of them in the state of Wyoming. The best way to describe us, if you've never been, is we're kind of like Cheers without the bar. It's just where people come together for a little conversation and good times, camaraderie, and we are an exclusively adult-only business. If you're not 21 and up, you don't get into our store. About 1% of the average population would call themselves cigar aficionados. And as a result, it's been pretty hard to get this problem on the radar over the years because we're a pretty small group. But we have a pretty large problem that has gone on since, I think, 2002 was the original statute. The only thing that has not been covered here so far is how much worse the problem continues to get. Since I've been in this body before, as it's been mentioned, we already have a federal excise tax that ostensibly has been capped at DC, but also federal tariffs have now joined, and that happened over about the last 10 or 11 months. And to be honest, those are still working their way through the system. It is an excise tax that's, due to the ad valorem nature, just continues to get compounded. It is not only the highest in Wyoming in tobacco, it's the highest of any Wyoming excise tax, and it's not even close. As we've mentioned before, there's kind of 3 buckets. You have the cigarettes, you have the snuff, and you have the premium cigars here. And again, the first 2, it's important to note, represent the absolute bulk of the department's collection by a factor of many millions. And that is because of the way they're sold and the way they're consumed. They're in hundreds of locations all around the state. I think a grocery store was referenced by the good chairman here. They're daily use for a lot of folks and consumed by a broader customer base than ours, so they obviously generate the lion's share. As has been mentioned, if you smoke the cheapest cigarette or the most expensive cigarette, doesn't matter, you're hitting 3 cents of excise. That's about the same for the average pinch of snuff out of a can. But this cigar from my shop incurs a specific $4 excise tax on that one product. And that figure can go down or it can go up a lot, depending on the cost of the item because of the ad valorem nature of the wholesale price tax. To save you the calculator, that's a 13,000% difference, higher than the other 2 for a product that is used less overall by an exclusively adult demographic, and that our own FDA has studied as recently as 4 years ago and found that it has a lower public health impact because of those reasons than our other excise products. Most of the anti-objections tend to be framed around heavy use. And most people are more occasional. It's more of a celebratory product where you're coming in on Friday to wind down the week or smoking your annual birthday cigar. Again, we're not running a salad bar here, but it is very different than an average use of the other products. Part of that price increase is, again, that we are increasingly taxing taxes with the 52% federal excise, again, capped. Now the federal tariff, which varies by country of import. The country that sends the bulk of products into the U.S. is Nicaragua, and they are subject to an 18% federal tariff right now. All of that gets baked into the wholesale price. Then you put the 20% excise on top of it. Then you put the retailer's markup on top of it. And then there is a 6%, in Casper's case, sales tax applied to the full price of the product. So it can get pricey, as Senator Pappas would probably agree pretty quick. The product differences, as has been discussed, they don't stop there. PACT Act, of course, stops the first 2 from coming into the state. So that is all in-state revenue, whereas cigars absolutely are not. What has changed over the last several years is the further consolidation of the industry. Again, multinational corporations tend to run most of it now, and they do a ton of business in Wyoming. They are the biggest sellers of cigar here by large, And they will sell more, far more cigars into Wyoming than brick and mortars like mine ever will. It's just the fact of the matter these days. And again, because of the antiquated statutes, we're not recognizing that with Director Fanning over at the Department of Revenue. Those companies, again, the largest of the bunch that owns the most is based in Denmark. So we are effectively allowing extraction to Denmark while making things considerably tougher for our in-state businesses.
And
So
don't
as
they
a-
own Greenland?
Not touching that one, Senator Case. Thank you. Again, we think the cap is reasonable. As has been mentioned, the cap is pretty specific and really is kind of the dividing line between what we would call things sold in shops like mine and stuff that are a little more machine made that you would run into at the typical C-stores. So it's a good point to set that cap at. And again, as has been mentioned, there's a lot of a company with states, I think we're up to 16 or 17 now, that have recognized this problem. I think it's a situation where consumers win. I think small businesses win. I think state wins. Again, a healthy tax base kind of comes from healthy businesses, and we've got a lot of them that are struggling right now in this particular category. So to close, we're not seeking special treatment. We're just seeking not to be treated 13,000% worse. So with that, thank you for the opportunity, and I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
Questions? Senator Ide.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm sorry, your name again?
My name is Donovan Short, Senator, Mr. Chairman.
Donovan Short?
Yes.
Okay. What do you think of, just a quick question, you're a local cigar guy.
Mhm.
One of the problems I have with this bill maybe is it maybe entrenches us a little more into federal compliance. You know, they passed law that we basically agreed with a couple of years ago to make the smoking age 21.
Mhm.
Do you have any thoughts on this bill of how that the negative of that entrenching us further with the federal laws?
Mr. Chairman, Senator, I honestly don't see much of a problem with it. I think, again, there's been so much discussion about the youth access problem when it comes to the various products, not just ours, all over Wyoming. And it's a situation where we didn't have any loss of business when that 21 and up statute change had actually happened during the period that I've owned the shop. I can not be overbearing here when I say that in 25 years of hanging around cigar lounges, I have never once seen an underage customer come through the door of my shop or any other shop I've visited, with the exception of the people that are employed by the police department to come in and do the ID stings. And we pass those with flying colors every time. So I think it is a bit of a solution in search of a problem with the youth access comments.
Oh,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I'd like to come by and smoke a cigar with you sometime. And when I refer to that, I just assume 18-year-olds ought to be able to come in and smoke a cigar too, because they can vote. Thank you.
Well, Mr. Chairman, if we have a revenue committee up in Casper, I'm going to grab Bob and we're going to head over to his shop on CY and we'll smoke one.
Mr. Chairman, Senator, the more the merrier. Come on through.
I think all the revenue committee meetings are going to be in Gillette.
They have one too.
We have friends there as well.
We do.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Richard Garrett. I'm here today representing the American Heart Association. I kind of appreciate the levity, by the way. And I also wish I had a voice like the previous speaker. It's definitely impressive. So I'm not sure I'm going to be as effective following up, but I'm going to do my best. The American Heart Association is an organization that you know quite well and have heard from many times over the years. And our goal is to discourage young people from acquiring a habit that can damage their lives, end their lives prematurely. And another goal is to encourage people that have taken up that habit to to cease smoking or using other tobacco products as well. Tobacco is a leading cause of preventable illness in the United States and claims over 800 lives in Wyoming every year. So your decisions here are consequential, and maybe a step back is important to understand. It's not about just taxation, it's about people's health. My dad's idea of a smoking lounge was our family station wagon going off on vacation, and we'd get about 50 miles from home and he'd light a cigar, and all of us 5 kids got to inhale that secondhand smoke for the next 50 or 60 miles. And that would happen 2 or 3 times per vacation. And that secondhand smoke is dangerous, and it's dangerous to people that are enjoying. And I admit there's an enjoyment. I've smoked cigars, and there's a community. I've never gone to an official smoking lounge, but there's a sense of community maybe, or friendliness on your back porch when you share a cigar with somebody. I don't dispute that. And I'm not here to scold, but again, we're here on behalf of the American Heart Association, to try to improve Wyoming's health. Certainly taxation is an effective strategy for reducing tobacco use. It's not the only one, but again, tobacco-related illnesses require $300 million in healthcare costs per year. This is something that research clearly shows us. These costs flow to taxpayers in the form of higher premiums and even increased Medicaid costs. By imposing a 30-cent cap on cigar taxes, Wyoming would not only be risking higher tobacco-related illnesses, but the state would also be generating less revenue in order to address these higher costs. Comparisons with other states bordering Wyoming are perhaps useful. Idaho's, I believe, is 40 cents. Nebraska's 20. Colorado is 56. So we're definitely leaving some money on the table. By limiting the ability to tax cigars at a level commensurate with their public health costs, Wyoming would be depriving itself of valuable resources needed to combat the devastating toll of tobacco on our communities. This is a very complex subject. Mr. Chairman, I share your confusion. I've tried to decipher this bill. I thought I could chart it out at one point. It reminded me of Little Billy and the Family Circus cartoons, where his mom would send him to the grocery store, and Billy would wander the entire neighborhood and pet every dog on the way and pet every cat on the way back. And he might get back home with the groceries and he might not. So I am certainly not a tax expert, not even close. But when we complicate what is fundamentally a health issue through a tax regime that is difficult for a layperson to decipher, I think we are obscuring the real danger that we're imposing on our residents by continuing to make tobacco use something that is not only available to them, but as a source of revenue to the state. And I hope that you'll allow me and the American Heart Association to work with you, continue to work with you, to save lives, reduce healthcare costs, and make Wyoming as healthy as it possibly can be. In conclusion, I have admiration for every single one of you. I hope you know that. I've worked with all of you through the years. Senator Pappas is a fine senator, but this is not the bill that we can support. So we unequivocally ask you to vote no. So thank you.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Do cigar-related health injuries, or however you want to word that, exceed the other tobacco products, or is it vice versa?
Mr. Chairman, I thank you for that question, and I will defer, if I may, to answering that question at a later point in time. But I believe that the answer is likely that there are fewer health-related issues that are consequent to cigar smoking as compared to other forms of tobacco use. Cigar smoking is a very minor component of the overall universe of tobacco use in our country. But that's only my instinct saying that. So I'll get some numbers for you on that, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Thanks. Thanks very much for your time. I appreciate you all.
Okay, do we have anybody else? We have 4 people online.
Mr. Chairman, we have Beth Oliva.
Okay.
Hello, good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and the committee. My name is Beth Oliva. I'm a lawyer at Fox Rothschild, and I'm here representing the Cigar Association and the Premium Cigar Coalition. I just want to check, can you all hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, very good. One never knows with the technology, but I also appreciate that you are letting me appear remotely. And I want to start off by, again, thanking Senator Pappas for his efforts here. As Mr. Fanning talked about, we've been working with the department for quite a long time on this issue. And I will say that our members comprise both the largest cigar manufacturers in the country and the largest of the online retailers in the country. So I'm here on behalf of both, and I'm also happy to take any questions. But just listening to the testimony and the presentation today, a couple things I did want to talk to you about so you can understand the context of this. I think the question about federal law was really important here because I think the issue here, so you know, the PAC Act is a federal law provision that really tried to stop the interstate, like online sales of cigarettes and smokeless tobacco and e-cigarettes to make sure they were paying taxes, particularly the tax stamp issue that you were referring to earlier. These provisions, though, that we have in this bill really deal with trying to have Wyoming be more compliant with other states' laws and put you in a good position in reference to other states you're competing against, not the federal government. State excise taxes are imposed across the country. The only 2 states that don't have an excise tax on cigar are Pennsylvania and Florida. Also happens to be where nearly all of these online retailers are located. Well, yes, one of them is owned by a parent company in Denmark. It physically sits in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. It's where the cigars are coming from. And so at this point, when the Wayfair decision was passed by the Supreme Court in 2018, allowing for the imposition of sales tax on out-of-state entities that were shipping into states that had economic thresholds versus physical nexus thresholds. And that economic threshold was set by the Supreme Court at $100,000. States started to look at the excise tax and realized that most states, I will say, in fact, almost all 50, did not have statutes that were written to encompass an online world, right? These tobacco tax statutes were written quite a long time ago. Most of them were originally written for cigarettes, kind of crafted on everybody else, but long before the products were sold online. And so you don't have either the constitutional mechanism, that $100,000 threshold, or the licensing mechanism to capture these retailers, right? So it's part of the reason you have that use tax, right? The consumer tax that's in your statute was understanding you couldn't reach this population, but you could get your own consumers because they're in the state to pay the tax. And I think to the charge you gave the department that we've heard is, well, that tax is very difficult to collect. Let's figure out how to have the retailers sit in the position of being the tax collector. And my group understands that, but we need to do it in a way that have the tools for the department and for them to be compliant. So we have created a model legislation that looked at these problems in all 50 state statutes and came up with a general solution that has now been enacted in 11 states, because you're talking about a very small industry and the compliance burdens here are huge. Because again, we're talking about a wholesale price, not a retail price. So like sales tax, you just say, okay, something costs $10 and you have a 10% sales tax. Okay, it's $1, right? With excise tax, you're looking at that wholesale transaction, 2 transactions back in time, that for an online retailer could have occurred, of premium cigars could have occurred 10 years ago because these cigars can stay in inventory that long. So it's a much more complicated system. It's not just that final price the consumer sees that you put sales tax onto. And so we need that remote retail sale language to both allow for the licensing and the economic threshold license so you don't frankly get sued because you have an unconstitutional imposition of an online tax. And so when we came up with this bill, we've worked with each department. I can tell you that Mr. Fanning and his group have been wonderful partners over the years, and that they continue to work with us and understand the concerns from the industry side. And we have, I will say, made a lot of concessions in this bill to try to simplify it for Wyoming as much as possible and to not burden the department as much, frankly, many more than we've made in other states, to try to get to that way so that you are getting this money. And I think to the question of if it's a new tax, I wouldn't say it's a new tax. It's a way of you capturing a tax that you're currently just unable to collect. So I kind of look at these bills as a modernization to account for an online world, right? That we all shop online now versus sometimes going to the brick and mortar. And to Mr. Short's really good point, he is right now at a disadvantage, right? And this will help. We have found that this does make it so people who want to will go to their local stores, as will that 30% tax cap. And on that, I believe the number was said before, but there are 17 states in the country that have these tax caps because of the increasing nature of that ad valorem tax. And one thing that Mr. Short testified to that I think is important to know, that number keeps going up for these premium cigars because they're coming from countries that have an additional tariff now. So not only do they have the federal excise tax on them, but they also have these additional tariffs because they're almost always coming from Nicaragua, Honduras, and the Dominican Republic. So that cap is helpful. And I will say this to remember, that cap is based off a wholesale price, not the retail price. So when you go into a convenience store and you might see some machine-made cigars on those shelves, they look a lot cheaper. They might say 99 cents for 2 cigars, right? That's a retail price. The wholesale price is maybe 20 cents a stick, right? So when you're talking about that $1.50 threshold, you really are only talking about the products that Mr. Short sells and his compatriots sell that are adult products that are in their stores. So anyway, I'll stop there. I'm happy to take any questions about the implementation or what we're doing nationally, but those were some of the things that I wanted to note. And that, again, this bill is specifically limited to cigars and pipe tobacco because that's where the concerns are on this. And again, that they are legal to be sold online.
Yeah, I'm gonna ask you the same question I asked the Department of Revenue.
Mhm.
If I understood, anybody who sells this in Wyoming, even if it's $1, are required to be licensed and pay the taxes, correct?
Yes, that's because they have nexus with your state because they sit in the state.
So what does the $100,000 limit in the bill really do?
So that allows you under the Constitution to attach nexus to an out-of-state entity. Prior to that Wayfair decision and that $100,000 threshold, you could not collect sales tax from online purchases because they did not have physical nexus in your state. So the laws prohibited it. But when the Supreme Court ruled on the Wayfair decision, they said that if there is a sufficient economic nexus with the state, and they put it $100,000 or 200 transactions, and Wyoming has already modernized that to get rid of the 200 transaction threshold because I do believe that's a huge compliance burden on the department, that you still need that threshold to attach to an online sales transaction to a company that doesn't sit in Wyoming.
Okay, thank you. Any
You're
other
welcome.
questions?
Mr. Chairman,
Senator Case?
could I have the lady introduce herself again and the firm and where the firm is located, where she's calling from?
Absolutely. My name's Beth Oliva, Oliva. I'm with the law firm of Fox Rothschild. We are a nationwide law firm. I happen to be sitting in our New York office, so it's a little brighter here still. But we're nationwide, and I represent both the Cigar Association of America and the Premium Cigar Coalition. The Cigar Association has been in existence over 100 years and has many different people in the chain as members, but mostly as a manufacturers association. The Premium Cigar Coalition is strictly based to the online retailers and helping with states to work on this online excise tax issue.
Mr. Chairman,
Follow up?
following up on the chairman's question about Nexus.
Mhm.
We talked about lowering the threshold to maybe 10,000 or 5,000. I think you would say you can't do that because that doesn't fit the court's Nexus connections. But you also said that if they make 200 sales, why couldn't we go by the 200 sales?
I would ask the department about implementation on that. The way that the Supreme Court decision was written was $100,000 or the 200 sales, thinking about the categories of very expensive products that would probably meet the 100,000 with the 200 sales. Again, I'm not the tax collector, but I can tell you from working with a lot of tax departments that 200 sales threshold is just very difficult to track, but I'm not going to speak for Mr. Fanning on that point. But it would be different from your sales tax threshold, so they'd have to track the two different things, right? Where you eliminated the 200 transactions, but it's a possibility. I would say lowering the number is not something we've seen. We've seen states increase that amount in the very large states, like Texas has a higher threshold. Can't remember, but yeah. Does that help? I don't want to speak for the department on that. I think it would be a harder challenge for them, but Mr. Fanning could tell me I'm totally wrong.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Any other questions? Well, thank you for your testimony.
Of course. Thank you for letting me speak with you this afternoon. Appreciate all of you and the hard work that you do.
Well, thank you too. We got another one?
Mr. Chairman, we have Catherine Sutton.
Okay.
Are you able to hear me all okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and members of the Senate Revenue Committee. My name is Catherine Sutphin, and I work for the American Cancer Society Cancer Action Network. I reside in Southwest Montana, but I cover both Wyoming and Montana for the organization. I am here to testify in opposition of Senate File 96. I just want to start by saying I'm very happy and grateful to see you all wearing the breast cancer ribbon today. I appreciate your support of cancer patients, survivors, and caregivers across Wyoming. The American Cancer Society Cancer Action Network is the nonprofit, nonpartisan advocacy affiliate of the American Cancer Society. We advocate for public policies to end cancer as we know it for everyone, including policies targeted at improving the health of our state by reducing tobacco use. ACSCAN strongly opposes Senate File 96, which runs counter to that goal by making tobacco products easier for kids to access. ACSCAN opposes tobacco products being shipped directly to consumers. All tobacco products and all tobacco retailers should be regulated in the same manner. By exempting cigar and pipe tobacco shipments, this expands tobacco products being diverted and delivered directly to consumers. Shipments directly to consumers should be prohibited and only allowed in state brick-and-mortar licensed retailers, where consumers' identification is properly checked to verify that they are indeed over the age of 21. This exemption may allow easier access for youth to cigars or pipe tobacco products. Additionally, ACSCAN opposes lowering the tax on any tobacco product, including cigars. Increasing tobacco taxes is one of the most effective ways to reduce tobacco use, especially among kids, and tobacco companies know it. Lowering the tax and therefore the price of the tobacco product in itself is one major way for the tobacco industry to protect their bottom line, addict people with cheap products, and keep them addicted. This bill would reduce taxes by not collecting them until a sales threshold is met by instituting a tax cap on cigars. All tobacco sales should be subject to excise taxes, and the state should not be providing a tax break to any tobacco products across the board. At a time when tobacco use among youth is unacceptably high, Wyoming should really not be considering lowering the tax on any tobacco product, including cigars. And we also know that people who smoke cigars are 4 to 10 times more likely to die from laryngeal, oral, or esophageal cancers than people who do not smoke. So I urge you to protect kids, not big tobacco's products, by opposing a tax reduction on cigars. Additionally, to prevent youth from accessing cigars and tobacco products, please oppose allowing these tobacco products to be shipped directly to consumers. So thank you for the opportunity to oppose Senate File 96.
Questions? Well, thank you for your testimony.
Mr.
Yeah.
Chairman, our last individual is Nick Torres.
Okay.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman. My name is Nick Torres, representing the American Lung Association, working on behalf of the 35 million Americans, including more than 80,000 in Wyoming, living with lung diseases like asthma, COPD, and lung cancer. Here, respectfully to oppose Senate File 96 today, to share with you, our position that really the decades of worth of research that we rely on has been clear that one of the most effective policy measures that we have to address smoking rates is to increase taxes on tobacco and invest those funds into tobacco control programs, including prevention and cessation efforts. The Lung Association believes that all tobacco products should be taxed equally across all product categories. And Wyoming is currently meeting that mark. And we oppose carve-outs for particular types of tobacco products. Senate File 96 is proposing a special lower tax rate for cigars, particularly what would be quote unquote premium cigars sold at higher price points. But a cigar is still a tobacco product. In fact, the amount of tobacco in some cigars can be the same as the amount of tobacco in an entire pack of cigarettes. And so in addition to the public health implications, the fiscal impact of a tax cut on these products is notable as well. Reduced tax revenue on tobacco products could mean cuts to important prevention programs. It's also, I think, very concerning there was not sufficient time to develop a fiscal note on this bill. According to the Lung Association's 2026 State of Tobacco Control Report, unfortunately, Wyoming earned an F for tobacco taxes. We'd like to see that improved. It's been 23 years since Wyoming increased taxes on cigarettes. So Wyoming is long overdue for a tobacco tax update. As a previous speaker put it, we're leaving money on the table here. So we would support the goal of improving tax collection from remote sellers, but capping these taxes is precisely the wrong approach. Having some cigars taxed by the current 20% rate, while also introducing the 30%, the 30-cent cap, just further complicates the system rather than simplifying it, which I believe was one of the goals here of the bill. But that summarizes our position. I would thank you for the opportunity to provide our comments and our concerns with the bill.
Well, thank you for your testimony. Any questions? Mr. Fanning. Does the $1 requirement include out-of-state sellers?
Mr. Chairman, that's the discussion. As you heard from Beth in testimony, there's differences in that opinion there. There really are. I apologize for the vague answer there. The Department of Revenue believes that there's a licensing and tax collection requirement as soon as you make one sale into Wyoming. That's where part of this language comes from in this bill. And I appreciate everyone working with us. Senator Pappas, Beth in testimony, Mr. Short, all the constituents that have come together for this. There is a disagreement on the first dollar of tobacco sales into Wyoming. And again, it's my understanding that this language helps clarify that for everyone.
Okay, thank you. Senator Case.
So is that partly your AG's? Sorry, is that partly your AG weighing in on this?
Mr. Chairman, Senator Case, yes, sir.
Yeah. And the lady attorney also testified that she thought the 100,000 was the binder. So you're saying since $1, it could be any amount we set. So that's part of that same disagreement. If we went to 200, the actual number of sales, would that get you on firm ground and you wouldn't have the open-endedness of the two ends of that $1 versus 100,000?
Mr. Chairman, Senator Case. So the state of Wyoming went away from the 200 transaction 2 years ago.
Yeah.
We had that in that Wayfair versus South Dakota decision from 2018. That's one of the points that the Supreme Court made, was that South Dakota had a 100,000 limit, which wasn't going to be a huge burden because you didn't want to burden the smaller retailers. And then they had this or 200,000 transaction threshold. 200, sorry. Thank you. Apologies, everyone. 200 transaction threshold. And so the thought at the time was if you sold 200 pencils into the state, that really wasn't the same as making 100,000 in sales. So there's been a concentrated effort across the nation to move away from the threshold. As in testimony, it's hard to track. We just don't know who's making 200 sales of t-shirts or pencils into the state. That's why almost all states have gravitated towards this threshold amount. Most states have 100,000, but as you heard, states have shifted that amount. The Supreme Court decision said if it wasn't a burden to the retailers, and again, there's better language out there, the exact language. I'm not sure, and again, I'm not a legal mind, but I'm not sure how that impacts the sales tax collection. You were talking about sales tax in the Wayfair decision, how that comes across to other tax types. So,
Mr. Chairman,
One more
that's
question.
key.
Yeah, thank you. One more question. So it seems to me this is different because it's tobacco and the Wayfair decision is just about commerce. It's not different types. And it was, Mr. Senator Pappas, let me finish, okay? So I'm wondering if states have any leeway about taxation for purposes of health and safety and regulating sales to minors. Much like the alcohol. The alcohol, I'm sure, isn't a way. You don't have to have 100,000 to collect taxes on alcohol in Wyoming. But of course, the alcohol rules are very differently. So is there any thought about that? Is there any leeway because this is a tobacco product that we could act differently?
Mr. Chairman,
Right.
Senator Case, have to do some research on that for you.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I don't see it as a tobacco product versus another product. I see the differences. Wayfair dealt with sales tax. We're not talking about sales tax here. This is excise tax. I don't think you can make that comparison. I think you can, and that's why I think the state said, well, yeah, $1. I don't think that we're bound by the $100,000 because that's not sales tax. We're talking about excise tax.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, the fiscal note was brought up and the time on that. So the Department of Revenue's fiscal note, you heard that from Administrator Ream. You've got 125,000 for new return, 43 for a supplemental page. I did some research on, okay, so what's the reduction in the 30-cent cap? Our total collections from OTP, so this is not cigarettes, not moist snuff, not vapor material, was $882,000 last fiscal year. $882,000. So then there would be a decrease in that amount because there would now be a cap. How much of that's related to cigars? I can't break it out further. But you're talking about just less than $1 million on what would be foregone potentially, less than that because we'd still be collecting tax on other OTB stuff. But then the addition to the new online remote sales, again, hard to determine on that break even there. Most folks and who I've talked to say that we would be collecting a lot more than what we're giving up as far as the tax decrease. Again, not advocating there whatsoever. It's just those are the fiscal numbers, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. And on that note, I'm going to close public testimony. I think we have 2 minutes.
Bill.
Bill's been moved.
I have an amendment.
We need a second first.
I'll second the bill.
Okay, it's been moved by Senator Pappas, seconded by Senator Case. Discussion.
I would propose an amendment on page 4, line 12, change that to $5,000.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Question.
All those in favor of Senator Case's amendment, say aye. Aye. Opposed?
I have another amendment.
Okay,
Page 8, line 9, $1 per cigar.
for the cap.
Yep.
Do we have a second?
You can afford it.
Mr. Chairman, that'd be the highest cap in the nation and over the federal cap. Federal cap is only 40 cents.
These are good cigars.
There's no second. So
Yeah.
Well, that amendment failed due to no second. Anything else, Senator Case?
No question on the bill.
Call for the question.
Mr. Chairman, this is a roll
No.
call vote for Senate. Oh,
Senator Ide, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I'm kind of torn on this thing. Yeah, I see some good with cap, see some bad on the other side of it. I'm really not even weighing the health thing on this, but I may just go ahead and vote for it and get it out of here and vote on third reading.
Roll call.
Mr. Chairman, this is a roll call vote for Senate File 96 as amended. Senator Case,
Aye.
Senator Dockstader,
Aye. By absentee voting form.
Senator Ide,
Aye.
Senator Pappas,
Aye.
Chairman McEwen.
Aye.
Case I don't know. I wasn't sure.
Mr. Chairman, Senator Case, was that an aye or a no?
I to know.
Changing to no?
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, you have 4 ayes, 1 no.
Well, God bless Denmark and we'll
We're
end
gonna
this
get those
meeting.
guys.